You know, one of my favorite things to do is throw a lipless crankbait. I mean, I love it. It's one of the things I like about it the most is how fast and how much water you can cover with it. And then once you get them pinpointed, how you can sit and really catch them whenever you get a big wad of them found. The great thing about a lipless is you can catch them post spawn on it, you can catch them summertime on it, the fall, all the way into the winter, and then early spring, late winter, early spring, especially around grass, around rocky areas. It's just super duper versatile bait, but the main thing is you can cover so much water with it. And I love throwing it because I know the whole entire time I'm throwing it, the opportunity to catch a really big fish is great. This is a big fish bait, and I like throwing anything that gives me an opportunity to catch a great big fish. I thought he was on it. I thought he was on it. I knew I didn't just set the hook into a stump. He just got me in it. You know, I'm here on a new lake I've never been on before, and it doesn't matter if it's this one or any others. Whenever I go to a body of water that I know has grass in it, I'm gonna pick up a lipless right off the bat. I'm gonna throw it, I'm gonna fish the grass with it, I'm gonna fish on top of the grass with it, the outer edge with it. I'm gonna thoroughly fish a couple of different places with it. When I get bit on this bait, then I'm gonna dial in on what depth he was on, where at on a point he was at, everything about it, so I can carry that pattern on around the lake. The good thing about a lipless is it's an unbelievable search bait. That's what I use. I have it tied on everywhere I go in the country because of that purpose. I may pull up on one of these places, catch a fish just like I just did right here, and I may fire a bunch of different things out there in this same area to see if there's something that they want better. When I go through everything and I pick the lipless back up and I get bit, that tells me I'm going to stay with it. Bait's out of sight. I mean, out of sight coming in. Gosh. That's the way you want one to eat a lipless crankbait. I mean, big time, choked it. That's what we call choking it. What happened then was just winding that bait, jerking it free from the grass, paused it, and he choked it. Well, I throw lipless big time in January, February. I'll throw it over into March. And then there's a time frame there, depending on what part of the country I'm in, there's a time frame there right at pre-spawn, and during the spawn, I'll lay it down. And then I'll pick it back up post-spawn, summertime, and especially in the fall. It's just a really good search bait. You can cover a lot of water with it. You know, January through till the spawn, pre-spawn, I'm gonna have a red one of some kind tied on. When I go into summertime, fall, post-spawn, all that stuff, I'm gonna start working back towards my shad colors, back towards my bluegill colors and things like that. And it's just matching wherever you're at, whatever part of the country you're in. You know, we like to throw a gold one in Florida. And the reason behind that is gold shiners down there. So we like to throw one with a gold tint. And it's just whatever part of the country you're in or you're going to or whatever, knowing what you're trying to match with it, and then just take off fishing with it. When I'm fishing a lipless crankbait, I throw a little stiffer rod. And the main reason I do, it depends on the circumstance, but probably 75% of the time I'm throwing lipless, I'm throwing on grass. I'm throwing on underwater vegetation of some kind. So I throw a 7-foot medium heavy action rod. It's pretty stiff. It's got quite a bit of a backbone to it. but I can take it and just pop it like that when I'm winding it in grass and clean that bait off. The key to catching them out of that grass is a clean bait. And by doing that, it's kind of effortless. I can make a lot of casts, the bait stays clean a whole lot long, more. And then the other thing while we're talking about the rod and everything is the gear ratio. If you're having to slow your reel down to touch the grass, you need to change gear ratios. You need to go to a lower gear ratio to where that bait can reach that strike zone. 90% of the time, no matter what, I'm throwing a 15-pound fluorocarbon on this rod when I'm throwing a lipless. I've got buddies at home that will have a tendency in the wintertime to throw it on a braid. And the reason they do it is keeping that bait cleaned off, ripping it through the grass. In the wintertime, if you grab a fish and you're holding that fish across the back or whatever, and you feel that fish is hard feeling. They've been cold all winter. They're in the best shape of their whole entire year because they're getting ready for pre-spawn and everything. And that fish is real firm. He's real solid and hard. After they go through the spawn and they come out and the water's heating up and everything, that fish gets mushy feeling. If you'll pay attention and look at that, he gets mushy feeling. And when that happens, a lot of times that braid, it doesn't have any give to it and everything. You'll lose a lot more fish because of throwing it on braid after the spawn. Because of that reason, they get softer and mushier and they're thin, their skin's not as thick and tough. So really then, you want to make sure that you're throwing it on fluorocarbon on this rod. Another thing I'll do is when I'm fishing it on rocky type stuff, bouncing that nose right across the rocks and everything, which I do that quite a bit, I'll soften the rod up. I'll go to a lighter action rod just for the simple purpose that fish, when he bites it, that fish is going down, he's scooping that bait. He's having to dig in those rocks to get to that bait and pick it up. And by doing that with that softer rod, he doesn't feel you as much. You're not taking it away from him, gives that fish the opportunity to suck it in. Oh yeah. Nothing better than getting a little bit of Christmas wrapping with a fish when you're fishing grass. It's always fun to open up the present to see what you got. Just unwrapped him. That's what we had in there. Today, this grass is averaging in that, 3 to 4.5 feet range. So I'm perfectly fine throwing this 1/2 ounce. I'm able to thoroughly fish exactly my targets and everything that I'm wanting to fish. So I'm gonna stay with a 1/2 ounce today. But when it gets to the point to where that grass is a little too deep or I'm not getting bit up there on the shallower grass, but I still think the fish are there, then I change and I go to a 3/4 ounce. And I do the exact same thing, fish it the exact same way, but I go to a 3/4 so I can fish it deeper and be more thorough on the cover that I'm fishing. Usually what happens, that's the times in the past that I've gone to a 3/4 more than a 1/2 ounce, is when the lake comes up during the time I'm fishing it. If I'm there for a week and the first 2 days I'm catching them on a 1/2 ounce and all of a sudden we get a big rain, lake comes up a foot or 2 feet, then automatically that bait's not gonna fish as thorough through the same cover. So then I will go to a 3/4 ounce just so I can keep it in the right area. Well, that's my 101 here on Lipless Crankbaits. And what a fun way to fish. It's probably the best search bait you can possibly ever use. But what happens more than not, it turns into being your key bait once you find them on it.